Well, quite a busy agenda ahead of us, quite some challenges waiting for us, but it's good to have challenges in life, isn't it? Now, what can existing NCAP organizations learn from each other? How can safety ideas be established in emerging markets? Now, topics like these will now be discussed in our Strategic Roadmap 2025 panel, a discussion that will be moderated by the Secretary General of Global NCAP, and I would like to invite him on stage. Please welcome Mr. David Ward. David, I believe you will have 5 panelists that you will invite on stage, and of course we need some chairs to put them in, so...
Yeah, as soon as the chairs are, I'll call them up. But first, perhaps on behalf of Global NCAP, I can say big happy birthday to Euro NCAP. For many of us who are around, as Klaus mentioned, it's fantastic to be here. It's also amazing to be here. The progress is breathtaking. It's very nice to see some old friends, Adrian Hobbs, who absolutely critical role in all this, Frank Van West, who I used to work with at the FIA. It's wonderful to see this community back together again. I was just struck, Klaus mentioned that we don't know the names of people, but I had a very nice family experience recently. My wife's cousin is a doctor in Crete, in Hania. Absolutely wonderful guy, former president of Greece, Doctors of the World of Greece. He's now the Director General of the Hania Hospital, undergoing an incredibly tough time reforming the Greek healthcare system. He always used to say, David, I don't understand what you do. And he could never really get his head around it. But 2 years ago, he bought, at my insistence, a 5-star car. And himself and his wife, who's the head anaesthetist at Hania Hospital, had a terrible car crash when a drunk driver pulled out in a high-speed collision, actually at around 64 kph. They both survived. When I next went to Crete, he came and gave me a big hug. He said, I understand what you do. And he's absolutely right to bring it back to the sort of human scale when you think of all the lives that have been saved. It's pretty remarkable. Since we're quite short of time...
I'm going to leave the stage to you.
Yeah.
The chairs are waiting. It's
Great.
Up to you now to invite our
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, first, can we have Pierre Castin? I'm going to actually pull you all up because we're a bit short of time. Monique Goyens, Major Tom van Esbroek, Wendy Machen, I think is, actually I can't see where you are, but I think she's coming somewhere. And last but not least, Peter Shaw from Thatcham. Here they come, yeah, all mic'd up. So I think I'm going to remain standing. There's probably a chair, but I think it's better to remain standing. So our task is to look forward, not reflect on the last 20 years. And we've seen the film about the introduction to the new roadmap. And what I'm going to do is ask each of you a couple of questions in turn. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, because I think you do it much more effectively than me. So Pierre, a quick introduction to yourself. And then my first question, you can do it together, is what's the ambition behind Euro NCAP's roadmap? And could you say a little bit about why powered two-wheelers are now featured?
Okay. I am Pierre Castin. I am head of regulatory affairs in a French laboratory for type approval, UTAC-CERAM. And now, since July, I am the new chairman of the board of Euro NCAP and president of Euro NCAP. Concerning the ambition of Euro NCAP with this new roadmap is first to anticipate the new mobility for vehicles and users with what we speak about, automated vehicles and autonomous vehicles, perhaps it's perhaps different. And of course, we have not to forget and at least to inform the consumer about how they can trust what is present to them. And we see that there is some difference today with the current vehicle on the road with automation on that. The second thing is in the roadmap, and it is presented here, is not to forget what we have done. We have to continue. We have a very good way to have a global rating for the vehicles, covering of course, occupant protection, but child, pedestrian, or vulnerable road user, and safety assist system. And the third point concerning, you asked me, concerning PTW, two-wheelers today share the roads with cars, and there are for nearly 20 or 18 to 20% of fatality in Europe today. And we have to do something for this. What we have started to do is to see what we can do on the side of the vehicles, the car itself. But perhaps in the future, we have also to see what we can do on the motorbike itself.
Two-wheelers have always been such a huge challenge, but it's very good. I think it's the first. Actually, not ASEAN NCAP is doing a little bit of work around motorcycle safety, so it's good to see NCAPs moving into the two-wheeler. Another question for you, Klaus touched on this, is who are the customers we're trying to influence? We're beginning to see far more role of fleets rather than individuals. And how do you think Euro NCAP can really persuade these huge purchases in the marketplace in Europe to put safety first?
I think that, do you hear me? Yes. I see the new type of mobility change the deal of the business model that we want to look at. For example, the ownership of the vehicles will change, for example. And what we have to do is to found a business model to touch the people, the provider of the purchase of the vehicles. For example, today we have discussed about trucks in city or something like that. We are sure that it is not the driver of the trucks who buys the truck. And we have to find a way, and perhaps it should be the city who will be the contact and the city will authorize or not authorize such trucks in a car. I think we have also we have to continue with our overall rating complete, and also we have also to look at new items, and we have speak here about tertiary safety. It's something where we have to deal between rescue teams, and it is not the same population of consumers somewhere.
Yeah. Interesting. I think the city focus is fascinating. Global NCAP is very fortunate to get some funding from the Bloomberg Philanthropy. Of course, Michael Bloomberg is hugely into cities, so I think it's a fascinating area for NCAPs to have a new dialogue with public authorities. So thanks Pierre, very, very much. Now I'm going to turn to Monique Goyens from BEUC. And my first question to you, but also if you could introduce yourself, is what is your thoughts about the perspective, the legacy of consumer advocacy behind all of this, which has been such an important part of creating independent sources of advice and information for consumers, empowering consumers. What's your perspective on this from BEUC's point of view?
Yes. First, introducing myself. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here, learning a lot. So I'm the director of BEUC. BEUC is the horrible acronym for Bureau Européen des Unions de Consommateurs, so the European Consumer Organization. We are the umbrella organization for 43 national consumer organizations in 31 European countries. We are a sister organization of ICRT, who is a member of NCAP, and we have a lot of overlap of members. And it is the job of my organization to represent our members with the European institutions. So we are the lobby arm towards Europe when it comes to consumer organizations. First of all, of course, happy anniversary to Euro NCAP. I think you need to celebrate such important milestones. And of course, Euro NCAP has been a major driver of enhanced car safety. And I'm not going to repeat all the things that have been already told. I just endorse all this positive feedback. I just would like to maybe mention 3 things. And one has already been mentioned by Klaas in his introduction. It is about the fact that by this attitude of testing safety of cars in the way NCAP did, or Euro NCAP did, it has changed the narrative. Indeed, when Ralph Nader, you know, the pioneer of consumer protection in the United States, began his fight to have safety belts in cars, the car industry cried out it would make them bankrupt. I mean, this has not made them bankrupt, maybe other things, but not enhanced safety. And in fact, car safety has become a marketing argument. In the past, cars needed to be fast, performing, and beautiful. Now they need also to be safe. And this is in part due to the fact that there has really been a very good alliance between the tests that have been carried out and the resonation, the multiplication of the results of this test by consumer organizations in their magazines. We as consumer organizations have been able to use this independent testing in order to advise consumers. That means that individual consumers could make safer choices, but collectively they could send a signal of consumer preference towards safer cars. And I brought with me the car guide of which the UK consumer organization, and it's a 2017-18 issue. And here, for example, one car, I won't name it, you can have a look at it if you want, says 3-star Euro NCAP crash test means it's a don't buy. Well, that's a strong signal. They have 1,400,000 subscribers, so you imagine that they can be quite influential. So it's really important, and this teaming up is something that could maybe even, I would say, enhanced. And what I would also say, and I just heard it for the first time this morning by you, the very important thing is that it's independent testing. And I'm, until here, in the Dieselgate scandal, which has shown more than needed that there is a much too cozy relationship between some authorities and the car industry. It's regulatory capture. We need independent testing. There is, I said this on the radio 2 days ago, there is something rotten in the kingdom of car industry. We have to make that right. And the fact that we can rely on independent testing is an enhanced legitimacy of those who do the testing, and it's a very rare commodity in this era of fake news. We need you. We need independence, and you should be much more vocal about this. Today, I didn't hear it. Do you take this for granted? It is not granted in this marketplace. And last, maybe on connected cars, if I can say so, and automated driving, this is a huge challenge for all of us because we have to build our expertise because it's not the traditional situation anymore with the car manufacturer. You need to engage with the software developers, you need to engage with the telecom operators. And one of our major concerns there, I mean, we have a lot of concerns, just to mention this, is the fact that there is a dilution of responsibility when there is something going wrong. Is it a sudden loss of connectivity? Is it the car? Is it the hardware? Is it the software? Is it the whole connection? Who is going to be responding to the consumer when something goes wrong?
We have a huge opportunity with changing consumer attitudes, their access to media, social media, and so on, but also much more complexity. And we all know, for instance, that the experience you sometimes have in a dealership where the sales staff actually can't explain the technology they're trying to sell. So how do you feel that this challenge of building up consumer confidence and trust in this new age of high skepticism but increased sources of information?
Well, I don't have the whole morning here, but I would say, because I have been checking out the website and all that, I think that you don't reach out to consumers anymore in this century by informing them. You have to engage them. You have to give them the possibility to provide feedback, peer review, ratings, you know? So I think that where we could really build up a more consumer active system is to provide consumers the possibility to build up with you their experience. I mean, it exists, Airbnb, I mean, all those rating systems, but it also exists for the pharmaceuticals. The European Medicines Agency allows consumers to report side effects. So, for example, wouldn't it be nice to have a project for example, for automated driving, where consumers have a space where they can bring their experience? It can help you identify, in fact, safety or any other issues with the cars, because they are going to be the ones who drive them or who are in them or are maybe heard by them outside. So that would maybe be, you need to activate consumers.
Yeah.
Informing is not enough anymore if you want to engage with them.
It's very powerful point. Now I'm going to move to Wendy Machin, who's the chair of the Australasian NCAP. And I'd be interested to ask, Wendy, where you think NCAPs, what's their role in the wider road safety discussions, particularly in the context where in high-income countries it's quite disturbing, but the progress of the last decade of year-on-year reductions has either stagnated or in some cases has actually gone into reverse. And so that's a big challenge for all of us, to how to restore again this path of progress. What are your thoughts and your experience in Australia and New Zealand as well on that?
Thanks, David. Gosh, if I knew why the road toll was going up, that would be a great thing, wouldn't it? Because everybody's asking that question. And as you say, we're a developed nation. We've had a program like ANCAP in place even longer than 20 years. We've been doing ratings. Yet over the last couple of years, not so much this year, but the previous 2 years, our road toll has gone up after years and years of declining. And interestingly, you can see the big downturns. So seatbelts, for example, when they came in random breath testing, I imagine the graph in every country is the same, and it shows that decline. So the role of NCAPs around the world, I think, is to keep pushing the barriers, keep lifting the bar as the new technology comes into the market, or as we've seen already this morning in the films and in the roadmap. Then we have to firstly assess it, but we have to drive the demand for that. And that can sometimes be difficult because, we're just talking about seatbelts, the resistance by consumers to wearing seatbelts. And I'm old enough to remember my parents thinking this was an outrageous infringement of their personal rights to put a seatbelt on. And yet that's a factor still, sadly, in many crashes in Australia, and I suspect in other similar nations. Too high a proportion of passengers and drivers are killed because they weren't wearing a seatbelt. So I guess that shows to me that our role is not only to raise the bar as this new technology comes along and demand that that's incorporated into all vehicles and all models, and we get that rolled out through our fleet, but we can't take our eye off some of the problems that we thought we might have solved because they're still coming around. And why is that? Complacency, perhaps. I know in Australia a lot of crashes occur very close to home. And case in point, I won't tell you the details of that, but I did test that theory and I proved it's right. So I think complacency comes in, and that's where then again the opportunities are here with new technology about driver distraction, monitoring the drivers, fatigue and so on. So it gives us opportunities to use that technology to try go back and have a look at some of these problems.
Great. Yesterday we had our annual meeting of Global NCAP, a roundtable of all the NCAPs. We have all the NCAPs except NHTSA, unfortunately couldn't make it, but they're all here. Australasian NCAP and Euro NCAP have now really got very close together, which is fantastic to see that kind of collaboration. Can you say a little bit about that and what lessons you think there are for other NCAPs in terms of your close partnership
sure,
now?
Yeah. It's appropriate you've seated us together too. We're physically close. We've been working on this for some time, and we've worked closely together at times. At other times, there have probably been differences of opinion, and I guess that's the same around the world. Over the last couple of years, Australasia and Euro NCAP, we have worked to harmonise the protocols. It hasn't been easy. I won't say it's been an unhappy process, but it's just meant a lot of hard work, going through quite a lot of detail to make the protocols line up, but also make them appropriate for our market. So that's taken a little bit of compromise on both sides, so a bit of give and take. So Euro NCAP has adopted some of our policies, we've picked up some of theirs, and from the beginning of next year we'll have harmonised protocols. So I think that's a really sensible thing to do. I hope that it might be a precedent, perhaps, and there's scope to do that further around the world, because in my view, what does that do? That says to industry, firstly, there's one set of ground rules, and I think industry wants that. They know exactly what is required of them to get a particular type of rating into quite large markets. It also allows us to share information, and the types of cars we use in Australia are very different to what you have in Europe. So in the last couple of years, we've issued something like 49 ratings each year in Australia, and around about half of those we've already taken from Euro NCAP. So it's an efficient use of resources to be able to share that information. and it allows both of us to tap into a wider range of ratings, which is good for consumers. So we're just about there. You've now logged a whole big new piece of work on us with a roadmap that's got a whole lot more challenges. So the work is not ending, and this is really just the start, but it's gone really well. I say hats off to the teams that have been involved in negotiating that and harmonising the protocols. You wouldn't think there could be that much difference, but there is in every market, and when you talk to our colleagues in every NCAP, you can see.
Yeah.
So I think there's great benefit in looking at how we can maybe take that a bit further, particularly, I think, in some of the developing markets.
Yeah, exactly right. There are such unique circumstances in different markets that convergence, but maybe not full harmonization, is more realistic. But anyway, now we move to the insurance sector of Peter Shaw from Thatcham. Peter, can you say a little bit about Thatcham? And then I'm going to ask you, what's automated driving going to do to the insurance industry?
So, yeah, thank you, David, and good morning, everybody. So, Peter Shaw, and I'm the Chief Executive of Thatcham Research. We're an organisation that exists to carry out research on behalf of the insurance industry, fully funded by the insurance industry, and we focus on safety, security, and repairability of cars. So we cover all three activities. If you don't mind, I'd just like to pass on the congratulations of the UK insurers to Euro NCAP for the fantastic work that they do, and particularly to celebrate their 20th anniversary. And that's why my team actually crashed these two cars that you see at the side of the stage here, to illustrate the progress that's been made in that 20 years. And I know there are a lot of experts in crash capability here in the room, but I think no matter how much experience you've got, if you look at the Rover 100, it's still shocking to see how bad it was 20 years ago and how much, things have changed. Yeah. So that said, and in answer to your specific question, and what will it do to the insurance industry, it is transformational, and I think already has been mentioned, this issue that product liability will become much more of an issue as we go forward, as the car is driven by the systems. But I think much more importantly for the period of this plan, till 2025, much more important than the long-term vision of fully driverless cars, is the implementation of all the technologies that will eventually empower that automation, such as been mentioned, auto braking, auto emergency steering, cut across path braking, junction assist, and so on. And what this will do is reduce frequency of crashes, and so there's real potential to reduce the premiums that people pay for their insurance as a result. The issue, I think, is that cars and their safety systems are not all born equal. They're all very different. And, just to illustrate the point, my own team have tested pretty much every auto braking system that there is. And their range of performance is from a sort of 15 kilometers per hour speed differential that can be employed to well over 60 kilometers per hour capability. And so all these systems are called the same thing, AEB, but their true performance is very different. So from an insurer's perspective, what they have to know is what's the real capability of that specific vehicle's system. So I think this is where Euro NCAP can really come to the fore and provide their data to the world, to the insurers and to consumers, to show the difference in capability of all these systems. And I think what the industry will see over the coming years, well before product liability, is in the underwriting equation, the car will become much more important than it is now. So right now, typically, and I appreciate this is different across different markets in Europe, but in the UK, for example, around about 70% of the premium is based on you, the person, where you live, your driving record, and so on, and 30% on the car and its speed and capabilities and characteristics. And in the future, we see that shifting steadily towards the vehicle, as the vehicle has a safety net of features that can get the driver out of trouble and stop him having an accident. So the active safety characteristics are going to become much more to the fore in insurance premium writing than they are today.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's certainly interesting. We have the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety with us, and over the years, their insurance data has underpinned their research and validated technologies faster than anything else. So the scope for more of that seems, really, really positive. And how do you think you could strengthen the cooperation between the insurance industry and NCAPs, and maybe a closer link with ARCAR, the international body of the insurers?
Well, I think you're hitting on a very important point, that we do need to have collaboration across industry. So we need cross-industrial and global, where possible, responses to what we as a safety community and as an insurance community would like to see from vehicle manufacturers. So let's be clear and let's be as aligned as we possibly can be across NCAPs and across other industries. You mentioned ARCAR. So ARCAR is the Research Council for Automobile Repair. It's basically a global organization for insurer-funded research companies like Thatcham and like Insurance Institute for Highway Safety in the US. And I think they can play an important part by aligning their own strategies to those of the NCAP organizations to ensure that we have, a clear message to manufacturers about what we're looking for. I think I must, though, put on the table that there is an issue, and the issue is that we see rising costs of repair. Yeah. And at the moment, we see circa 20% increase in costs of repair. So whilst frequency is certainly coming down, which is fantastic, the cost of repair is going up, and this threatens, I think, the insurance premium advantage that we should be seeing. But also, it's a massive challenge for the repair community, and this is a global community of repairers, to repair and recalibrate the sensors that power these fantastic safety systems. And, modern cars can have 20 or more sensors in vulnerable positions, and I think the hidden danger here, and the reason why it's important for safety, not just for repair costs, is that people may have a small crash, just a little knock that disables a sensor, and they may actually not get it repaired. And so this could well compromise the performance of those systems and compromise the benefits that we're hoping to see. So we need to work together, collaborate, make things very clear to people how important each sensor is to the complete safety equation.
Great, thanks very much, Peter. And then last but by no means least, we're coming to what I always thought was the Cinderella subject, unfortunately, of a lot of road safety. There is a fifth pillar in the plan of the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety, which is all about post-crash response, emergency response. And we're delighted that we have Major Tom van Esbroek to talk to us about that. So perhaps, Tom, you could say a little word about your organization. And then particularly, what are the challenges that you face? You've been at the hard end of road crash incidents, having to deal with that. How will new technologies and new propulsion systems of vehicles and so on affect your practical life-saving work in the road?
Okay. So, hello everybody. I'm a little bit overwhelmed to be in the center of this event. It's an incredible event. My congratulations. I'm so happy to be here and to be invited. So thanks. First of all, I want to say sorry picking the wrong chair because there's some kind of system in it.
Not at all.
So, and about my name, it's a typical...
It's boy, girl, it's perfect,
okay,
don't worry.
Okay. My name is a typical Flemish name, usually when I do presentation, I say, okay, don't bother, don't try it at home, just call me Major Tom. And it works everywhere. So, okay, so as you can see, I'm a firefighter, a fire officer. I work in the east of Flanders. I'm officer responsible for human resource and also for education, training, and exercise. Actually, in Ghent, we call it the center of Belgium, but okay. I'm also working for the Center of Expertise. That's a kind of organization, a body of the Ministry of Interior. We are developing procedures and training packages for the first responders over there. And beside of that, I happen to be the chairman of a commission, a CTIF commission for extrication and new technology. And CTIF is actually the International Association for Fire and Rescue Services. So we present 40 countries worldwide. And we do have some commissions with different working topics, and one of them is the Commission for Extrication and New Technologies. So the main objective of this commission is to improve the safety for the victims we have in car crashes, but also to improve the safety of all first responders and second responders that are involved dealing with this kind of incidents, because that is our main objective. We actually focus on 3 clusters. So you have first the road safety in general, but also specifically when we're talking about alternative energies and different kind of propulsions. The second cluster we call energy storage systems. If you think about lithium-ion batteries, solar panel, fuel cells, and the third cluster is smart tech. We call it smart technology. Self-driving cars, automated vehicles, communicating vehicles, robotics, all the new stuff coming towards us. Also, for example, data transmitting and the analyzing of it and just using for first responders' purpose. So, in answer to your question, if we see, or if we are looking to innovation and new technology for first responders and second responders, we are focusing on information. We want to have the crucial information for the first responders and the second responders. Information that is correct, information that is standardized, and information that is free for charge for the first responders. If we take example of Rescue Sheet, you all know Rescue Sheet. We are now also working on some kind of standardized format for emergency response guides, because we are the guys who actually use them. So we are also looking for the installation of safety measures, also the regulation about them. This is in close cooperation with industry, of course, and with car manufacturers. We do this actually by leading an ISO project. So last but not least, we are also focusing on education. And if you take all those things together, you can say that CTIF is really wanting to take care about human resources, the human resources that are needed to do the rescue actions. And that's the only way, besides innovation and new technology and everything Euro NCAP is standing for, but that's the only thing that can reduce intervention time. So this is kind of a summarizing wrap-up. So,
can I ask you, in the roadmap, we've seen that there's going to be more on this issue and the whole, exactly what you were talking about, of the ability of first responders to act as quickly as possible. What are you expecting from this roadmap, and how excited are you by it?
Yeah. CTF wants to encourage industry and car manufacturers and also Euro NCAP, of course, to take into account every kind of action and measure, safety measure that is improving the safety for first and second responders. I was talking about these human resources. You need to have a good or a well-done rescue. We really try to encourage all kind of things that can help us during an intervention. Think about the use of symbols or some kind of stuff that can identify risks to us. Think about tools that can help us to make decisions quicker. Think about everything that actually can support our actions. Yeah, then we are really going in the good direction. And of course, we are dreaming of having this kind of things integrated in the Euro NCAP system, in the rating. We call it tertiary safety. And they told me this morning that the sky is the limit, so I'm actually dreaming of some kind of firefighter star. Yes.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, I think we've had a very good discussion. I'd really like to thank all of you for managing almost to get back on time, which has been very good, and for covering such a wide range of issues. So perhaps the audience give a big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.